For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brooks Teal. I am a Youth Alive Missionary here in Tennessee. For some of you, you think Youth Alive Missionary. Some people call it Youth Alive Director. Okay, that's probably the worst thing you can call it. A director don't have to raise money. A missionary does. A missionary is not as glamorous as you think it is, but I'll tell you this: I have the best job in the world. There is no greater job. And so my job is to motivate you, the student, to go reach the biggest mission field there is, and that's your school. And for a lot of you, it's not just a mission field. Most days it's a battlefield. You're being pulled from every different direction. The world is constantly pulling on you, and you're having to compete with the next best thing, everything that's happening. And if you do one thing wrong, everybody's on you like a pack of wolves. Am I right? But I want to ask you before I say anything else tonight, when you go to your school, are you going to be one of the many or are you going to be one of the few? Are you going to fit in with everybody else? Or are you going to be the one that stands out because you're different? It's so funny, we live in a world that everybody's trying so hard to be different that they just look like everybody else.
Yeah.
That's right.
Music. You watch these. I watched the Grammys back last year, and everybody was trying to be their own person, and they were trying to be different, but they just look like everybody else. And I'm just going to tell you, you showed up tonight. There's not probably many kids in this town that went to church tonight. What we do in this room, to many, is weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here in just a little bit, I want to preach, and when I get done, I'm going to open this altar up. And some of you, you're going to feel an urge to go, and you're going to come to this altar, and you're going to kneel down right here. And what you do there, in this room, a lot of other people aren't doing it. You want to know why? Because you are different. You're not like everybody else. And the quicker you cope with that, the better off you're going to be. I was riding back in the summer. It was on July 4th. Griffin, my little 3-year-old, I just want to tell you right now, and you have a baby, it's incredible. What do you think, Mom?
Amen.
Your baby's up here, ain't it?
Yes.
The big baby.
Yes.
Big old baby.
Yeah.
Your mama loves you, boy.
Amen.
You got a nice truck out there because your mama loves you. You know what? I don't blame her. I want to give my son stuff. Let me tell you how awesome my son is. In the morning when he gets up, he calls my name, Daddy. Calls Brittany's name, Mama. And I go in there and pick him up, and I just love on him. And I get to tell him things. And I tell him things like, man, you're going to change the world. And I believe he is. I believe he is. That little baby's incredible. And I love him. And there's nothing in this world I'd give him up for. But ain't it crazy that the Father gave up the Son for you?
That's right.
Like he thought you were worth it.
Yeah.
That's how much he loves you. That's how important you are. And so the other day we're riding. It's the 4th of July, and we're coming home. And he had played all day, and so he was pooped. And we're riding home, and people were, firing off fireworks, and I could hear him in the back. His car seat's behind my truck seat, and I could hear him. And he's got just the tiniest little nose, kind of like little JoJo's back there. Just little nostrils, ain't bigger than just a pinhole, And Griffin snores. I ain't gonna lie about it. The little fella snores, and he gets it from his daddy. All right, and I got the body type to snore. Okay, that's a joke. That's cool. I can hear him back there, and he's just back there snoring. He sounds like a little pig, and then every now and then you'll hear a little whistle. He's just snoozing away. And my wife don't like to hear me snore, but we love to hear Griffin snore and sleep, because when I hear him breathe, it lets me know that he's alive.
That's right.
When I can hear him breathing, it lets me know that he's living. And over the quarantine, we've had a lot of time to think, and when I think, it's a dangerous place. Believe it or not, I think sometimes. And my wife said something to me that made me think, and I'll be honest with you, it messed me up. This is what she said. She said, have you ever thought about how long Griffin is going to live? And that messed me up. And I started thinking about how long I was going to live. And I started thinking, man, I shouldn't have ate that honey bun yesterday. You know? I shouldn't have had that can of SpaghettiOs. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all been tearing it up. Y'all tore it up during quarantine, didn't you? Ain't no, there wasn't a bag of Takis safe, was it? No. Things hurt my stomach. How long is he going to live? And I want you, just for you mathletes in here, or you people that like numbers, you got to get your calculator out. And I want you to turn your phone off, but you can get your calculator out. I started thinking about if Griffin lives to 100 years old. I pray he does. If he lived to 100, he would live to the year 2117. That's a long time from now, ain't it? And I want you to think about, if you live to 100 years of age, how old are you going to be? What year is it going to be, I mean? When did you sit down, Toby Keith? I think you're going to hear that calculator. I'm going to have to find you in there for everybody. 100. You've been eating at the dairy bar, haven't you? God, they closed. Anyway. If you live to 100, what year is that going to be, Toby Keith? For you? Now you ain't got nothing to say now, do you? If I live to 100, I'll see the year 2086. If I live to 100, I'm going to see the year 2086. You ain't got to say it out loud. Just think about the year you were born at 100.
My truck will be 100 years old.
It's going to be 100 years old. Tall drink of water. What do you think about that?
I'm gone.
And you know the saddest part about me thinking about Griffin and how old he was going to be? Is that if he sees 2017, I won't be here to see it. And that's the sad thing to think about as a dad. And say, I'm going to live my life as long as I can live it until the Lord calls my name. And I'm going to live it in front of my son. And then when I go on, it's going to be my son's job to live as best as he can without his dad. And that's a sad thing to think about, but it's the reality of it.
That's right.
And the years of my life that I live, that is going to be known as my legacy. What I leave behind will be my legacy to my son.
Yeah.
And you can think I'm crazy, but what you're doing now at your age in high school and middle school, you're leaving behind a legacy. See, it's funny that I get on Facebook, because I'm still old, and I get on Facebook and I see people I went to high school with, and it don't matter what they're doing now, I still think about who they were when they were in high school. It's just a natural tendency of mine.
That's right.
That what they did in high school affected the rest of their life. And I wish I could tell you that you're going to grow up and people are going to forget about some of the things you did, but the truth of the matter is they're not.
Yeah.
And what you do now will affect the rest of your days on this earth.
That's right.
I'm sorry to tell you that. That's just the way it is.
It's true.
And the reality of it is that all of us in here are not going to see the age 100. I speak it that you live to 100 plus. But the reality is you don't know when your time is going to be up. Every day you have breath in your body, every day you wake up is a second chance. This life is a beast. This life is a mountain. I can't promise you that it'll be easy. Fair isn't even a word. You might as well get that word out of your mind. You lose your job one day, the bills will still roll in, won't they, Pastor Keith?
Amen to that.
You run out of money, You're still going to wake up hungry. You're going to have to eat. You're going to get a phone call that a family member is going to have cancer. You're going to get those nasty phone calls that a family member has died or they've gotten sick. And you're going to go about this life, and I pray that stuff off of it, but the things like that happen. Because life isn't fair. I had a 14-year-old girl in my youth group. 14 years old. During my last year of youth pastor, she had come into our youth ministry. And back last year, I preached in Franklin, Tennessee, and I preached on a Wednesday night, just like I'm preaching to you guys. And on the way home, I got a phone call that Sarah, the girl in my youth group, had been going through a lot. She was having some identity issues. She was being bullied a little bit. She was doing some things she didn't need to be doing with her phone, and she got into it with her parents. And at 4:30 on a Wednesday afternoon, she decides, after a little argument with her father, she decides to go up into the upstairs of their house and get a gun and shoot herself and end it right there. And as they took me up to the room where she did it, well, ServPro, the company, had to come in and do some restoration to the room. They had to come immediately. It was so bad. They had to rip up the floor where her body lay. I saw the bullet holes in the wall. She had been watching a TV show called 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, where they glamorize suicide, where they make it seem like it's okay, where they Hollywood it. And I'll tell you right now that there wasn't nothing glamorous about it as I sat there and as I held her dad in my arms. He was so upset I couldn't even hear a word that was coming out of his mouth. There was nothing glamorous about it. And in that moment, everything that I had done, did I do enough? Did I say enough? Did I minister enough? It was unfair. Life's not fair. I've watched over the past couple of years as 9, 10 kids out of my youth group, as I look at their mugshot on the news, or I look at their mugshot on my phone, and people send it to me. Life ain't fair. I did everything I thought I was supposed to do, and what's happening here?
Yep.
Life's not fair. But what I want to know is, are you going to get up and keep climbing? Life ain't fair, but God is faithful. He's good.
That's right. Amen.
And what if I told you that there was a mountain with your name on it? A mountain with your name on it. And then on the other side of that mountain, there was a plot of land that had been purchased, that had been bought, that had been set aside since light was spoken, just for you. Would you report to the mountain that in order to get that land, in order to see the view of that property as far as you could see, you had to climb to the top of it to see it? Would you report? Would you? A mountain that only you and the Lord, it was between you and Him. And that mountain is called your life. And on the other side of it is called your destiny. Can we read our Word? Not just read it, get involved in it. Reading your Word sounds boring, don't it? I'm not a guy that particularly really likes to read. But when we get involved in our Word, when we put ourselves in the story of the Word, everything changes. We begin to relate to it. And so we're going to get involved in our Word. Mark 3, 13 through 15. And Matthew 28, 16 through 20. We're going to read those verses of Scripture. I'm reading from the Message. I don't always preach from the Message, but I like the way this version sounds. And I want to encourage you to read different versions of your Bible. I want to encourage you to get involved in your Word. We're going to read right here. He climbed a mountain and invited those he wanted with him. They climbed together. He settled on 12 and designated them apostles. And the plan was that they would be with him and he would send them out to proclaim the Word and give them authority to banish demons. I'm going to stop right there. I want to point out a few things from that passage of Scripture. One is he climbed a mountain. And he invited. The word said he invited. What does an invitation mean? It means you're invited to come, right? You're invited to go, right? He invited them. He didn't command them. He didn't demand them. He didn't tell you you had to be here. Pastor Thomas, he invited you to come to this week, right? He didn't tell you you had to. He didn't demand you. He didn't command you. He invited you. I want you here, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with Jesus. There were only 12 that met him there on the mountain, right? They met him. 12 of them. 12. How many people was in this world? 12 of them met him. He invited them. He said, I love you. I think you're great, but there's more. And if you want to know more, I'll be on the mountain. He invited them. Matthew 28, 16 through 20, the Great Commission. Meanwhile, the 11 disciples were on their way to Galilee, headed for the mountain Jesus had set for their reunion. And the moment they saw him, they worshipped him. Some, though, held back, not sure about worship, about risking themselves totally, which meant some doubted that it was really he. And Jesus, undeterred, he went right ahead and he gave his charge. God authorized and commanded me to commission you. Go out and train everyone you meet. Make disciples, far and near. In this way of life, marking them by baptism in the threefold name, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Then instruct them in the practice of all that I have commanded you. And I'll be with you as you do this, day after day after day, right up to the end of age. He gave an invitation. He had plans. And I find it interesting that when he appointed 12. But when he commissioned, only 11 showed up. Because one gave up on the journey. Life ain't fair. 12 started, 11 finished. I'm going to let you off the hook. There were some that doubted. Can I just go ahead and tell you, and the adults in the room can go ahead and tell you, that there's going to be days you're going to get up and you're just going to doubt.
Right.
You're going to doubt. These guys saw him. They walked it out with him. They could see him after he resurrected, and they still doubted. So I'm going to let you off the hook. You're going to have days that are unfair. You're going to have days where you're going to doubt. And that's okay. You know what Jesus said? Keep going anyway.
Yeah.
Keep going anyway. And as you do this is what he said. I will be with you day after day after day, right up to the end of the age. As long as you're climbing, he'll be with you. He'll be with you, Caleb. So this thing ends. He'll be with you. But can I encourage you? Even when it ends here, it goes on. Because him, in eternity, it never stops. What you do here will never stop. Never. He'll be with you. Well, that's good, ain't it? You're built for the mountain. When I was a kid, I'm not going to say when I was little because I wasn't little. when I was a young whippersnapper. So you know what that is? I really don't either. When I was a kid, I had a bike. It was a red and black bike. Then it had a little foam thing that went over the middle, kept you from hitting your legs, you know. And you know, you progress, you go with training wheels, and you get out of training wheels, and you ride your bike. Well, this bike, I had jacked this bike up, bro. I'm telling y'all, it was jacked. And, you know, I was healthy. I was a healthy little fella. So just imagine me with no beard, just a fat, smooth face like a baby's butt. Riding my bike around the neighborhood, and that thing was rickety, you know. The bolts and screws, they were rickety on it. The thing was falling apart. I had jammed things in the spokes, and the spokes were bent. The tires wouldn't stay inflated, and they were dry rotted, and it was rusted, and the rubber on the handles, I had torn them off, and the bike was rickety. And so I remember telling my dad, I remember saying, Dad, I have got to have a new bike. And you got to know my dad, Donnie. He's a something else. He's not politically correct. He always has a little cough sniff when he talks. He always does that before he says anything. And he said, yes, wore out, ain't it? That's what he said about the bike. And so I got this bike, and so he said, you know, next weekend we'll get you a bike. And so at school we had free time for about 30, 40 minutes every day where we could go pick out a magazine and read it. Not, you know, Sports Illustrated Kids is what I would read mostly, or, you know, something else. And so I remember sitting in the classroom. There was these kids in the classroom. I don't know if y'all know anything about it here in Decaturville. Y'all, I mean, everybody's wearing cowboy boots around this joint, so. These were skater kids. And some of y'all don't remember this. You adults probably will. They wore Jinkos. You remember that? Y'all remember those big old nasty jeans they wear? And they wore those Vans shoes. And some of those are making a comeback. They're ugly as sin. But they had these big old wide shoes, you know, and looked like pillows, but they were ugly, but they served their purpose because they helped these kids skate on their skateboards. All right? So in Montgomery, where I lived, and they would grow their hair out long, and they were always throwing it out of their face. It's like, man, just get a haircut, homie. You ain't got to do all that. You know? So they were in there, and I was like, I bet they're all into extreme sports. I bet they knew the bike I needed to get, because some kids in my neighborhood, they had bikes with the spokes on them. They could do like tricks and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And I thought, you know, I could do some tricks. I mean, I can't hardly lift my leg. But like, I was going to do some tricks, you know. So I went over to them, I was like, hey guys, I'm getting a bike this weekend. I didn't know what kind of bike to get. So they turned to the bike section. They pulled up this picture, and it was like a silver and red BMX bike. It was like a nice bike. And I was like, yeah, that's the bike I need. It had the pegs on it, and, you know, shocks, pegs, Lucky, you know, Napoleon Dynamite kind of stuff. And I thought, that's what I need. I can do tricks out in the street and stuff with my friends, you know. I'll get that bike. And I was like, how much is that bike? They told me. I was like, oh, that's expensive. And they said, do you know where McDonald's is? That was a dumb question. Yeah, I know where McDonald's is. 100%. I said, there's a store behind it called Cycle Escape. I said, yeah, I see that on the way to the movie store and the Mexican restaurant. They said, yeah, that's where you can buy a BMX bike. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get me one. So Friday night rolls around, I told Dad, I said, hey Dad, I said, tomorrow we gonna get the bike? He said, yeah, we'll get the bike. You know, Friday was payday for Dad, and I said, all right, we'll get up and go to Cycle Escape. And he looked at me like I done lost my mind. But he didn't say nothing. But him and my mom, they got in the truck, and I got in there, and they took out, and we rode on right on past Cycle Escape. And I said, are we going to stop at Cycle Escape? He said, no, we're going to Walmart. And I know y'all know about Walmart right here in Decaturville. Ain't no doubt about it. Some of y'all live there. We went up into Walmart. Went back to the bike section. They had on a rack on an end cap. These are bikes. And I thought, oh my God. Get a bike from Walmart. I got a bike, and it wasn't a BMX. They didn't have no BMX. And I remember the skater kids, like, if you can't get a BMX, get a Huffy. They didn't have Huffy. I got a mongoose. I don't know what I'm talking about, a mongoose. That was a great value BMX, mongoose. It wasn't silver and red, it was orange and gray. The pegs wasn't chrome, they were black. Okay, it was a mongoose, but it looked close. You know what I'm talking about? Like the toasted cinnamon cereal squares you be getting? It ain't Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but it's close, you know what I'm saying? The mongoose was the great value of BMXs. And so I told my dad, I was like, my God, what's a mongoose? And he did, I don't know, I think it's some kind of varmint. That's what he said. And I got to remember, and I was like, we read a story called Ricky Tikki Tavi in school. It was about a mongoose. And the mongoose ate snakes. I thought, man, this mongoose must be bad to the bone. I pulled it off the rack. You should have seen me get on that bike. I got on that bike, the seat was about that big. About the size of a slice of pie. That bike seat disappeared. They thought I did a magic trick in Walmart. I'm talking about now you see it, now you don't, abracadabra. The bike seat is still in this room as I speak. Disappeared. The pedals came up into my inner thighs. I didn't even know I could get anything in between my inner thighs. If I took off running here, it would sound like a standing ovation. My thighs would just slap together. Up in my thighs, handlebars up in my chest area. I need some help there. I ain't gonna lie to you. Up in my chest. There wasn't no way I was gonna get on that bike. My dad comes around the side. Boy, you ain't got enough bike. That's what he said. You ain't got enough bike. Rhonda, that's my mama. Come here and look at Brooke. Mom and Dad's cracking on me in Walmart. Boy, you ain't got enough bike. And they walked around, I'm over there like, my gosh, man, I'm embarrassed, you know. Bike seat. The bike seat went into outer space. It went into the abyss. It never came back. Then all of a sudden, Dad, I hear, Dad rolls a big old bike. It looked like something the Wicked Witch rode. Big old bike, big old seat on it. I must admit, the seat looked like it was comfortable. Big old mountain bike. I was like, man, ain't nobody, man, old women drive these things, you know. Had some hoses running down. I was like, what's that? He's like, that's brakes and gears. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he was like, just get on it. Big old tire, just get on it. So I got on it. I'm talking about that seat felt good on my back. I could reach the pedals. I had room to move. I had big old tires that held me up good. Dad said, that's the bike you were built for. You were built for the mountain bike. See, the problem with you guys is a lot of you are out here living a life you were never built to live.
Come on.
Right.
When you weren't built for the street, you were built for the mountain.
Come on. Yes. That's right.
You're built for the mountain bike. That's what he told me. That's the one you were meant to be on, to sit on, to ride. That mountain, that's what he said. That mountain bike can take you places that street bike will never be able to go.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
And so in my neighborhood, there was a big hill at the back of my neighborhood. And to me, it looked like gigantic. I could never ride my bike all the way to the top. I always had to get off and just walk it up. And even then, I couldn't even hardly ever reach the top of this thing. Only the older kids who were more advanced could ride it up to the top. And on the other side of the hill was my buddy Marcus's house. And Marcus's house was awesome because Marcus had BB guns and he had a pool table. And his parents always ordered frozen food from Swan's. I don't know if y'all know what that is. But that frozen pizza was bomb. You know what I'm saying? And so I thought, man, I want to go to Marcus's house. And so every time I wanted to go to Marcus's house, we had to ride around the whole entire neighborhood and come up the back way to get to it. And I'm just going to tell you, it was so long, most days we didn't make it to Marcus's house. And so we were going to ride bikes with my buddies, you know, later that afternoon as we got home. And I come around the back side of my mountain bike. They're all out there and BMXs and one or two mongooses, you know. And we pull around, and some of them had a Huffy. But I pull around on my big old granny mountain bike. That thing had a water bottle in between the legs. I had that thing full of Minute Maid fruit punch. Ice. Because I like a cold drink. We called it a yak. I like a cold yak. And I came out like, Lance Armstrong in the Tour de France. And I waterfalled that thing. And I put it back. And they said, what in the world what is that? I thought you were going to get a bike. And this is a mountain bike. Man, that bike is lame. And I was the king of cracking, but they was cracking on me. I was like, you look like a lamb. Let's just go out and ride. And so we're riding around the neighborhood, and they're out doing tricks and all that kind of stuff. And Marcus is with me, and I said, Marcus, let's go to your house. I want to go to your house. Let's go up there and play pool and get in the air conditioning. And let's see, did your mom got to that frozen pizza? Yeah, I said, let's go on and go to your house. And the guys are like, all right, we'll try to do it. And so they take out. And I said, no, we're not going around the back. And they said, where are we going to go? I said, we're going to go up the hill. We can't make it up the hill. I said, my dad bought me a mountain bike. He told me I could go up the hill. So I took out towards the hill. And I get about halfway up, and all of a sudden my legs are getting tight. But then I remembered something. That thing has gears. I switched them gears. All of a sudden I pedaled a little bit easier. Before I knew it, I was sitting up at the top. And I turn around and I look at my buddies, and they're on their bikes, and some of them have given up and gone home. The other ones, they're trying to pedal, but they're not going to make it. Some of them got off the bike and they're walking it up, and I'm sitting at the top of the hill. This is what I'm saying. I'm saying, come on, Marcus.
Yeah.
Come on, Trey. Come on, Timmy. Come on, Pierre. Come on, Devon. Pedal. Pedal. Walk it up. Why are you going home? Turn around. Come back. All of them didn't make it. But a handful of them did. But they wouldn't have.
That's right.
If I hadn't climbed the mountain first.
That's true.
That's right. Amen.
And they didn't know it. But they were built to climb the hill too.
Yeah.
It's true.
And we went and we enjoyed Marcus's mom's freezer. See, your friends, they're not going to understand what you do every day. They don't know that the Father has equipped you and given you everything you need to climb the mountain.
Yeah.
They don't know how to climb the mountain. They've never seen the view. But if you do it first, they just might. Over quarantine, and I'm fixing to close here. Just give me about 7-8 minutes, and I'm going to bring this home to you. And we're going to open this altar up, and every one of you are going to come to this altar. Over COVID, the word we don't speak of. I watched a lot of TV. A lot. My brother-in-law, he told me to watch this documentary called Free Solo. Anybody seen that documentary? I encourage every one of you to watch this documentary. It's a documentary about he's an American mountain climber. His name's Alex Honnold, I think is what his name is. Can we show that mountain? You got that picture of that mountain? Y'all see what? Does anybody know what mountain that is? That is El Capitan. Look down here at the bottom. You see all that green down there? That's probably 100-something foot trees. Down there at the bottom, they just look like little specks, don't they, compared to that rock? That is like almost solid granite. It's one of the steepest hills. It's straight up. In some spots, you're actually going backwards climbing this thing. And this guy has absolutely lost his mind, okay? I was watching and I thought, this guy can't even, he might not even be all there. But he climbs this thing. He free soloed El Capitan. For some of you don't know what free solo is, it means he went up and he climbed it without any ropes or harnesses. Walked up, he had a little chalk bag that he carried to and he walked up and he free soloed that mountain.
Yeah.
That's as good as it's getting for me, guys, right there. Yeah. Free soloed it to the top. And I thought, why in the world would anybody want to go and free solo that right there? He was a mountain climber. And he was crazy about it. And this is what he said in the interviews. They were like, what if you die? He said, if I perish, I perish. If I die, I die. He's crazy, ain't he?
Yep.
You go, and I went and looked at his life, and I found out that his mom had never told him that she loved him. Never. Dad died when he was young. He was an awkward kid. Nerdy. He lives in his van. He has a conversion, like a Dodge Caravan conversion type thing, that he travels in, and he goes and he climbs mountain ranges, but he had gotten fixated with El Capitan. He had his eyes on this mountain right here. And he went and he climbed it. And when I tell you he free soloed it, he didn't just go up one day and say, I want to climb this mountain. He didn't just go up and say, I'm just going to go and do this. No. He spent months after months after months studying that mountain. Not just looking at it, he spent months with a harness climbing it. He made notes. He knew where every little divot, every little foothold, every little grab. He had studied the mountain. He had tried it different ways. He had found a route where he could make it to the top. He climbed it all day long. Went back and he studied it. He had a board mounted in his van, and he sat there and he would hang for hours to see how long he could hang. And it took hours to climb this thing. This guy just didn't wake up and say, I'm going to climb the mountain to the top. He got up and he climbed. And when people said something to him about him being crazy, this is what he would say. He said, you don't know about climbing the mountain because you've never climbed the mountain before. Nobody can see the view like I see the view because nobody else has done what I've done. Nobody has sold out to the mountain like I've sold out to the mountain. Nobody has spent time with the mountain like I've spent time with the mountain. You can think I'm crazy all day long, but there's a view on top of that mountain that only I can see because I'm the only one that can climb it freely.
Yeah.
Because I know the mountain.
That's right.
He could free solo that mountain and see the view because he got up and he reported to the base of the mountain every day. You can play a little bit of music, just very, 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 very soft. That pad like that we had at transition time's fine. It's very, very softly. What if I told you that there was a mountain with your name on it? What if I told you that? That land that's been purchased is on the other side, and it's yours. Can't even put a price tag on it. It's a priceless piece of property that's yours. Nobody else can have it. Nobody else can have that land. It's yours. It's all yours. And that mountain, nobody else can climb that mountain but you. What if I told you that? And that there was a view that was so beautiful on top that nobody else in the universe could see but you and the Lord. What if I told you that? Would you report to the base of the mountain? I'll even sweeten the pot. What if I told you this, that if you get up every day and report to the mountain, that you wouldn't have to climb that mountain alone, that there would be a guide that would meet you there? What if I told you that?
Yes.
That He would climb that mountain with you and He would cheer you on as you climb it. That when your legs got tight and they were going to give out and you didn't feel like you could go anymore, what if I told you that He would get up under you and He'd push you and He'd give you strength you didn't have? What if I told you that? What if I told you that as you climb the mountain, you would come to a spot, there would be nowhere to grab, nowhere to put your foot, nowhere to pull yourself up, but out of nowhere there would be a grab hole that would appear, all because the guide would open his mouth and he would put it there. What if I told you that? What if I told you that there would be days you would even fall off the mountain, but before you hit the ground, he would be there to catch you and he would put you back on the rock? And what if I told you if you got up every day and you reported to the base of that mountain that eventually you would reach the top and you would see a view and you and him would spend time together just catching the view, the most beautiful view you've ever laid your eyes on? What if I told you that? There is a mountain with your name on it. There is a view that's yours. And life ain't fair. But if you'll keep going and you'll keep reporting and you'll keep climbing, Jesus said that I'll be with you day after day, after day after day to the end of the age. Some of you have been out in the street on a bike. You were never built to ride. And we know that Jesus will find you in the street. But He'll appoint you and He'll commission you on the mountain after you've reported and met Him there.